He came to the hospital every morning before the sun rose, walking slowly through the quiet corridor with the same heavy steps. The nurses grew used to seeing him before their shift even started. The old man in the worn jacket, with tired eyes and hands that shook slightly whenever he opened the door to the ICU. He would sit beside his wife, gently place his palm over hers, and whisper the same greeting every day. "Morning, my love. I'm here." She had been in that hospital bed for weeks. Machines hummed around her, monitors flickered softly, and her breathing rose and fell with a fragile rhythm that made his heart tighten each time it faltered. But he stayed. He stayed through the long days, through the cold nights, through every uncertain hour when hope felt thinner than the hospital blanket covering her. The nurses offered him food. He always shook his head. They offered him rest. He said he was fine. They offered him help. He smiled faintly and whispered, "I've taken care of her my whole life. I'm not stopping now." But everyone could see it. The weight he carried. Not just in his shoulders, but in the way he exhaled. He was getting thinner. His shoes were old and cracked. His jacket was too light for the winter cold. And yet every time someone suggested he go home for a moment, he simply replied, "What if she wakes up and I'm not here?" The truth was harsher than anyone knew. His wife had no insurance. The bills were rising every single day. And he had already sold most of what he owned, just to keep her here. He never mentioned it, not even once. Pride, love, and desperation mixed inside him in a way that made him choose silence over asking for help. One afternoon, the hospital administrator approached him gently, carrying a thick envelope, stuffed, heavy, intimidating. The old man knew what it was before she even spoke. His hand trembled as he accepted it. She apologized softly, told him it was just a procedure, said she hoped his wife recovered soon. But he hardly heard anything. He could hear nothing over the pounding of his own heart. He waited until he was alone in the hallway. Then he opened the envelope. The hospital bill unfolded like a cruel story, pages and pages of charges, fees, treatments, medications. The numbers blurred slightly as tears filled his eyes. It was more than he had earned in years, more than he could ever pay. For a long moment, he simply stood there, holding the paper as though it were a verdict on his life. Then he whispered, "If this is what keeps her alive, I'll find a way, even if it takes the rest of my life." He pressed the bill to his chest, took a deep breath, and walked back into the room where his wife slept. He sat down, held her hand, and pretended everything was fine. But fate, however cruel, sometimes remembers kindness more faithfully than humans do. That evening, a young doctor passed by, Dr. Jameson, one of the newer physicians who had joined the hospital recently. He had noticed the old man before, always sitting there, always silent, always waiting. Something about him stirred an uneasy sense of familiarity, though the doctor couldn't quite place it. When he saw the old man holding the crumpled bill, shoulders shaking quietly, something drew him closer. "Sir, is everything all right?" he asked gently. The old man wiped his eyes quickly, embarrassed. "Oh yes, I'm all right, just sorting things out." The doctor didn't believe him, but he didn't push. Instead, the old man offered the paper, almost apologetically. "They gave me this. I'm just looking it over." Dr. Jameson took it politely, intending only to glance at it. But the moment his eyes reached the bottom of the first page, his breath caught in his throat. There, faint, half-faded, written in a familiar hand, was a signature. A signature he had seen countless times growing up. A signature he had memorized long before he ever entered medical school. It was his father's. He blinked, unable to process what he was seeing. His father had passed away years ago, leaving behind only stories of a childhood accident, of a man who had saved him, of a moment that changed everything. A moment his father always said he could never repay. Slowly, Dr. Jameson looked up at the old man. "Sir, do you know who signed this?" The old man nodded gently. "Yes, your father. I didn't think anyone would remember that. He promised. He promised he'd help if we ever needed it. But I never wanted to ask. That signature. It's been there a long time." His voice broke slightly. "I didn't save him because I wanted anything back. I saved him because he was a child. Because that's what any decent person should do." The doctor felt his throat tighten. His father had spoken of the man who saved him from drowning when he was 8. The man who pulled him from the river and carried him miles to the nearest clinic. The man whose name he never revealed, saying only, "If you ever meet someone who helped you before you even knew yourself, repay him, not with money, but with kindness." And now he was standing right in front of him. The young doctor folded the hospital bill carefully, straightened it, and without a moment's hesitation, walked straight to the administrative office. The staff tried to protest, insisting on protocol, but he simply said, "This bill is paid. Completely, permanently. Mark it and stamp it." "But doctor, no," he said firmly, with a voice his father would have recognized. "This man saved my father's life. I am simply returning what was owed." When he returned to the old man, he handed him the folded bill. The old man looked confused. Then he saw it, the bold red stamp across the page. Paid in full. His breath caught. His hand shook. He looked up at the doctor, disbelief filling his eyes. "Son, you didn't have to." "I did. the doctor said softly. And even this is not enough. The old man couldn't speak. Tears rolled down his face as he looked at the young man who now stood before him, the living proof that kindness never disappears, not even after decades. The doctor placed a hand on his shoulder. "Go be with your wife," he said. "Let us take care of the rest." And for the first time in weeks, the old man allowed himself to breathe. He walked back into the ICU room, took his wife's hand again, and whispered, "We're all right now, my love. We're all right." Outside, in the quiet hallway, the doctor stood alone for a moment, remembering a father he missed dearly, and a stranger who had saved them both. Because in the end, kindness travels far, sometimes across rivers, sometimes across decades, and sometimes it finds its way back exactly when it's needed most.